Welcome back to my channel, Zeno's Wisdom. Have you ever noticed that the more you share with family, the more complicated things can get at this age? We've learned a few hard truths, and one of them is this: not everything needs to be said out loud. I used to think full honesty was the best way to stay close to loved ones, but over time I realized sometimes silence is a form of wisdom. It's not about hiding things, it's about choosing peace over drama, privacy over pressure. After 65, you earn the right to protect your energy and keep certain parts of your life sacred in this video. I'll share 5 things that, in my experience, are best kept to yourself if you want to avoid unnecessary stress and keep your relationship strong if you value your independence and emotional freedom. In your later years, this message is for you, so stay with me till the end. And if this resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that bell and join our growing community of wise, kind-hearted seniors. Let's get started. Number 1, financial decisions and assets. If there's one lesson I've learned over the years, it's this: not every truth needs to be told in full, and that includes your finances. As we get older, we naturally want to avoid confusion or tension with our family. So it might feel like the right thing to do is to be fully transparent. How much we have in savings, what we've set aside for the future, how our investments are doing. We think if I lay everything on the table, there won't be any surprises later. But in reality, that openness often opens the door to something else: interference, unsolicited opinions, and even subtle pressure, especially when different generations have very different views about money. I once knew a woman named Joyce, an elegant, soft spoken 78-year-old who had spent decades building a modest nest egg through hard work and frugality. She had 3 grown children one day wanting to be open. She shared her financial plans with them, thinking they would be relieved that everything was in order. Instead, the questions started rolling in. Are you sure you should be living in such a big house? Wouldn't it be better to invest differently? Have you thought about gifting now instead of later? Her daughter even brought over a financial advisor, uninvited, to look things over. What started as an act of transparency turned into a constant stream of input. Joyce went from feeling in control to feeling watched. That's the danger the moment you reveal too much about your finances. Especially without a clear boundary, you risk losing the very independence you've worked your whole life to maintain. Even well meaning family members can unintentionally overstep thinking they're helping, when really they're chipping away at your peace of mind. And in less fortunate situations, people who were once distant suddenly take an interest in your money. Not in you, we've all seen it happen. A cousin who never called is suddenly checking in. A grandchild shows up with questions about your will. It's not always malicious, but it can feel unsettling. That's why I tell my peers this: it's okay to keep some things to yourself. You are not being secretive, you're being wise. You have every right to protect the details of your finances. You don't owe anyone a spreadsheet of your accounts. You don't need to explain every purchase, and no, you certainly don't need to defend your decision to take a vacation, buy a new couch, or upgrade your hearing aids. This doesn't mean you shouldn't plan ahead. In fact, it's smart to have your estate in order. Make sure you have a trusted power of attorney, create a clear will. Choose someone responsible to communicate with when the time is right. But sharing every detail prematurely can shift the dynamic from your family trusting you to manage your life to them managing it for you. Because once that door is open, it's hard to close again. If you've ever felt like someone is watching your wallet more than they're watching out for your heart, that's a red flag. If you start second guessing your purchases because you're worried what others will think, pause. That's not how you should be living your golden years. You've earned the right to make your own choices without justification. You've built your financial future through a lifetime of effort, and the person most qualified to decide what brings you joy, comfort, or security is you. So let me leave you with this thought. Privacy is not secrecy, it's protection. Protect your peace. Keep the conversations around money thoughtful and measured, and only invite people in when you're sure they'll respect your boundaries. Your independence isn't something you should have to explain or defend. It's something you've earned. Now protect it, just like you've protected everything else you value in life. Number two, health concerns that are not urgent. As we get older, it's natural for the body to have its ups and downs, a little joint pain, a rough night's sleep, or feeling more tired after a long day. These things come and go as part of aging, and it makes perfect sense to want to share those moments with your children or grandchildren. After all, they care about us. We want to feel connected, and we believe that sharing shows trust. But there's a fine line between keeping loved ones informed and overwhelming them with every small ache and discomfort. Sometimes sharing too much can lead to unnecessary worry, stress, or even an unintended shift in how people see us. I remember a friend of mine, Tom, 74 years old, still active and full of life. One day he casually mentioned having sore shoulders after gardening. The next thing he knew, his daughter had booked a doctor's appointment called twice a day to check in and even suggested hiring someone to help around the house. Tom wasn't angry, he knew it came from love, but he couldn't shake the feeling that suddenly everyone was treating him like he was fragile. When we frequently talk about our minor health concerns, even casually, it can slowly change the way people perceive us. They might start seeing us as declining faster than we actually are. They may hesitate to include us in activities or assume we need more help than we really do. And that loss of independence, even if unintentional, can be deeply frustrating. This doesn't mean you should hide serious health issues if something truly impacts your daily life or requires support. Your family absolutely should know. But small, manageable things, it's okay to keep them to yourself. That's not secrecy, it's self respect. It's protecting your right to live on your own terms. Keeping certain things private is not about denial, it's about preserving your autonomy. You've lived in your body long enough to know what's serious and what's not, and you deserve the dignity of handling those smaller things your way without fear of being micromanaged. Growing older doesn't mean giving up control, if anything. It's the time when you should feel most confident in knowing yourself, when to act and when to simply rest. Trust your instincts and don't let over concern from others. Cloud your own self assurance because at the end of the day, peace in your later years doesn't come from everyone worrying about you. It comes from knowing what you need, choosing what to share, and living with quiet confidence in your own wisdom. Number three, your true thoughts on family conflicts. By the time you reach this age, you begin to realize a simple but powerful truth. The quieter you are, the more peace you keep. Especially when it comes to family matters, I've witnessed more family arguments than I can count. Children fighting over inheritance, siblings clashing over old wounds, sons and daughters in law being judged over parenting or financial choices. And every time my first instinct was to help mediate, offer advice, point out what's right, but over time I learned something valuable. Sometimes even the kindest words can become fuel to a fire that's already smoldering. I remember a woman named Elaine from our reading club. She gently suggested to her daughter that her grandson should start picking up his toys. Just a simple, well meaning observation. But within days, her daughter grew distant, stopped calling, and stopped inviting her over. That one comment meant with love was taken as criticism, and that distance it never really closed again. We older folks often become the casualties of battles we never asked to be part of. You try to mediate an argument between two children, and suddenly they both accuse you of taking sides. You offer a small opinion about your son in law, and your daughter stops sharing things with you. You try to help two relatives find common ground and end up being blamed when it falls apart. Whether your words are soft or honest, if the listener is hurt or defensive, your message can be twisted the hardest part when the fight is over. They often remember what you said more than what caused the problem, and they hold on to that sometimes forever. So let me tell you this from one seasoned soul to another: silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. You don't need to fix everything. You don't need to take a side. You can simply say, I'm sure you'll find a way to work it out. You can smile, step back, and protect your heart from unnecessary stress. And most importantly, you can keep your thoughts to yourself. Without guilt at this stage of life, we've learned that speaking from the heart doesn't always lead to understanding. Sometimes holding your tongue is the kindest way to love, because it respects their right to learn, grow, and make mistakes on their own. Let your children find their own way. Let your family evolve. Be calm in the storm, not because you're avoiding conflict, but because you've outgrown the need to get involved in every fire. Your peace is too precious to trade for temporary validation. And above all, remember, you've earned your peace. Don't let anyone, especially family drama, take it from you. If you found these insights valuable, let me know by commenting yes below your thoughts. Matter, and I'd love to hear from you. Number 4, your regrets about the past. There's something no one really teaches us about growing older: how to live with the things we can no longer change. All of us carry regrets. I wish I had slowed down. I wish I'd chased my dreams. I wish I had spent more time with family. These thoughts are deeply human. But you know what? Not every regret needs to be spoken aloud, especially not in front of the people you love. I once knew a woman named Linda, a lifelong caregiver and devoted mother. One day, while chatting with her daughter, she casually said, I wish I hadn't given up my career. She meant no harm, but what her daughter heard was, you weren't worth the sacrifice. That one sentence spoken in passing quietly created a distance between them. That's the thing about regrets. What feels like honest reflection to you can feel like rejection to someone else when you say, I wish I'd lived somewhere else. Your children might think you were unhappy in the home they grew up in. When you speak about an old friend or a long lost opportunity, your family might wonder if they were never enough. And when you frequently dwell on what could have been, it can make them feel like they're part of a life you didn't fully want. There's also this: the more you share your regrets, the more others may begin to see you as someone stuck in the past, rather than someone still living fully in the present. That perception can change how they treat you, with more hesitation, more caution, more emotional distance. I'm not saying you should bottle everything up. Our memories and reflections have value, and sometimes they offer lessons worth holding on to. But some of those lessons are best kept for our own quiet understanding. Not because we're hiding something, but because we're choosing to protect the peace in our relationships. Instead of saying, I wish I had, Try saying, I've learned a lot from that journey. It carries gratitude instead of sorrow, and it honors your story without putting a burden on anyone else. You don't have to suppress your emotions, but you do have the right to choose what you share and when. Because the truth is, peace in our later years doesn't come from rewriting the past, but from the grace we show ourselves in how we live with it. Number five, the full extent of your financial situation. Growing older teaches us many things, but there's one lesson. I wish someone had told me sooner, you don't have to share everything, especially when it comes to money. Finances are a double edged sword in any relationship, and in families they carry. Even more weight money can create gratitude, but it can also stir up jealousy. It can open the door to heartfelt support, but it can just as easily breed entitlement. And once you've shared too much, there's no taking it back. Here's a quiet truth to reflect on. Once people know you have enough, they start seeing you differently, sometimes even without realizing it. They begin to expect things: support, gifts, inheritances, questions that seem innocent, like why not downsize? Or are you planning to leave something for the grandkids might be dressed up as concern? But they often cross boundaries. On the other hand, if you admit you're struggling, some loved ones may begin to overstep, second guessing your decisions, offering unsolicited advice, or worrying excessively about your well being. What begins as concern may slowly erode your independence. True freedom in old age isn't just about how much you have, it's about having the final say in what you do with it. When you overshare the details of your savings investments or financial plans, you're not just revealing numbers, you're inviting pressure, opinions, and sometimes judgment. Many believe full transparency avoids misunderstandings, but misunderstandings can be cleared up. Entitlement, once planted, rarely goes away. And when people begin to see your wealth instead of your worth, it's hard to return to the relationships you once had. That doesn't mean you should keep secrets. Having an executive or financial advisor is wise. But beyond what's legally necessary, be selective. Privacy is not secrecy, it's protection. Think about this: real respect doesn't come from knowing your net worth. It comes from knowing that no one else has control over it. And if someone in your family only shows interest when money is mentioned, maybe it's not your heart they're after, but your wallet. Protecting your financial privacy isn't about mistrust, it's about peace of mind, personal dignity, and maintaining the life you've worked hard to build. In the end, a joyful retirement isn't defined by how much you can give, but by how freely you can live on your own terms. As we wrap up, I want you to take a quiet moment to breathe and reflect. You've spent a lifetime caring for others, raising children, keeping the peace, offering support, but now it's your turn at this stage in life. Peace isn't a luxury, it's your right, and sometimes the best way to protect it is by keeping certain truths tucked safely in your heart. Not out of fear, not out of secrecy, but out of wisdom. Ask yourself what truly deserves to be shared and what deserves to be protected. Your peace of mind, your independence, and your joy are worth guarding. You've earned the right to live the rest of your life with clarity, calm, and confidence. If this video spoke to you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who may need to hear these words, and let us know in the comments what's one thing you're choosing to keep for yourself from now on. We read every message, and your story might inspire someone else. Thank you for spending time with me today. Until next time, take care of your peace and protect it like the treasure it is. There's also this: the more you share your regrets, the more others may begin to see you as someone stuck in the past rather than someone still living fully in the present. That perception can change how they treat you with more hesitation, more caution, more emotional distance. I'm not saying you should bottle everything up. Our memories and reflections have value, and sometimes they offer lessons worth holding on to. But some of those lessons are best kept for our own quiet understanding. Not because we're hiding something, but because we're choosing to protect the peace in our relationships. Instead of saying, I wish I had, try saying, I've learned a lot from that journey. It carries gratitude instead of sorrow, and it honors your story without putting a burden on anyone else. You don't have to suppress your emotions, but you do have the right to choose what you share and when, because the truth is, peace in our later years doesn't come from rewriting the past, but from the grace we show ourselves and how we live with